So I do. I have that teacher voice. I have that teacher look too. So don't y'all misbehave out there, because I will give you that look. Okay. So okay, right here. All right. Oops, it's gonna fall on the break. Maybe like that. Is that better? Yes. Okay, great. So, once again, thank you all so much for inviting me here to Chatham County. I've got friends here, and it's great to see a lot of you all. And, you know, the first thing I really want to say is I'm so honored to be serving you and the Republican Party. This is, I'm just having a great time doing this. I'm really enjoying it. Since the close of the NC GOP convention, I've been very busy and loving every minute of it. I've participated in 60 visits or interviews, meetings in the NC GOP, and promoting the NC GOP across the state of North Carolina. I've visited 15 counties, participated in 3 different district executive committee Zoom calls, visited 2 districts already, visited the legislature with the North Carolina Federation of Republican Women, also visited with several other groups. I have visited or attended 8 different club meetings, which include 6 of the North Carolina Federation of Republican Women club meetings, 1 men's club meeting, and 1 TARS club meeting. I've had over 10 radio interviews covering Wilmington, Fayetteville, Asheville, Statesville, Raleigh, answered numerous calls, emails, text messages, you name it. I think I've done that, and I've had 2 op-ed pieces published in the North Carolina Journal, and I'm sorry, it's the North Carolina State.
North State.
Yes, thank you very much. I can't keep up with that. North State. So, I've really enjoyed it. And I've also written and sent out newsletters each month. So if you guys don't get it, I send them to the executive committee. So if you don't get it, let me know. I'll be glad to send you one. Also, your county chair gets them. So I'm hoping that they're going to send those out. So again, thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve you all. So as I said, you heard me say it, I am a teacher. I teach high school. So critical race theory is something that has really been my focus in education since I was elected. So 41% of the North Carolina budget goes to education. So that's a reason right there to be concerned. But the real reason you need to be concerned about critical race theory is because of the damage that it does to our children. As a proud American and a high school teacher, I tell my students that they can achieve anything they want to achieve through hard work and determination. I can't imagine teaching children that success is going to be determined by the color of their skin. Yet, many of our far-left activists in North Carolina are trying to divide our youth through CRT or critical race theory. The Democrat majority on the State Board of Education is working against unifying students and instead creating new civic standards that focus on inequities, injustice, and discrimination within the American system of government over time. All of this is being done under the guise of critical race theory. CRT argues that America is irredeemably racist. It sorts Americans into 2 groups solely based on their racial background. CRT replaces the capitalist belief in equality of opportunity with the socialist belief in equality of outcome. CRT diminishes the quality of education for our students and undermines our nation's history of social progress and divides and demoralizes our youth. As a teacher, I want all of my students to feel that my room is a safe place when they walk in and that everyone is treated fairly. I tell them exactly that on the first day of school. And I even have on my wall one of my favorite sayings, and that is, never let anyone dull your shine. And I do believe that CRT is doing just that. It's dulling the shine of our students and teaching them that their race determines their future, and that is not true. Parental or adult support determines if a child believes in themselves. For a child, to know and feel love is what determines their success. Orange County, Wake County, and Durham are leading the way in placing CRT in their schools, and let's throw in Mecklenburg as well. Wake County Public Schools taught anti-bias training to teachers. Durham County has gone so far as to endorse critical race theory in their public education. Orange County has included active disruption, which is why critical race theory benefits all students as a recommended reading list for their students. Some keywords for you all to be on the lookout for are equity, equality, equity officers. All of those are being used throughout the schools, and if you listen, you'll hear that being used in your local schools. So what can we do as Republicans? Well, Republicans understand that diversity should be celebrated and not weaponized, and we're working hard to restore unity and national pride in our schools. Republicans are taking action to protect our children from this harmful narrative. We've had states that have passed legislation banning CRT in schools. More than 15 states have introduced legislation to ban CRT in schools. Parents and students have stepped up to local school boards to express their opposition to the damaging curriculum. In North Carolina, we are blessed to have Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. He has formed the Fairness Accountability in the Classroom for Teachers and Students, or better known as FACTS. And the task force is where you can call in anonymously to report if you feel like you've been a victim of CRT or that you're being taught anything that pertains to CRT. The North Carolina House voted for House Bill 325. They gave it the final approval on Wednesday with a 61-41 vote. That bill prohibits schools from promoting more than a dozen concepts about racism and discrimination, most of which come from critical race theory. House Bill 324 lists 13 concepts educators would ban that from being promoted in public schools. The legislation prohibits schools from teaching race superiority and that people in the country are inherently racist or sexist. It blocks schools from teaching students to stereotype others as morally corrupt or prejudice-based, again, on their skin color or their sex. The measure would also have stopped schools from making students feel guilt or anguish because of their race, sex, or actions of others in the past. It would block schools from encouraging the idea that America was created by a certain subgroup to oppress others, and ban schools from promoting overthrowing the U.S. government and the rule of law. So, again, the House voted for it, the Senate approved it, 25-17 on Thursday. But guess what happened? It was vetoed when it hit the governor's desk. That is where we've got a problem. So the legislature should be focused on supporting schools, helping students, and recovering from lost learning, and investing in our public schools. Instead, this bill pushes calculated, conspiracy-laden theories into public education. And that was a quote from Governor Cooper. So if he wants to support schools so badly, I say, what about signing that budget and giving teachers a pay raise? But he's not willing to do that. 9th District Congressman Dan Bishop has also introduced the Stop CRT Act, which would ban federal funds from being used to support, to promote and teach CRT. And then Senator Tillis has also co-sponsored the Saving American History Act, which would prohibit federal funds to teach the factually inaccurate 1619 Project. If you're not familiar with 1619, that project chips away at American pride and teaches people to be ashamed of our nation's founding rather than celebrating our commitment to freedom. It teaches our students that our founding fathers only created America to preserve the institution of slavery and not to protect religious freedom. And if 1619 Project sounds familiar, if you guys can remember back to whenever Carolina had their big issue with the lady that was trying to get tenure. Hannah Nicole Jones, she is the one that wrote the 1619 Project. So I'm glad she didn't decide to stay with us. So locally, we can all make a difference though. We need more conservative Republicans on the school board, and I believe I heard there's somebody out here that's going to run. Good. So that is the way to stop CRT, is by being involved locally. The State Board of Education, the members on that board are predominantly Democrat. They're not going to stop it. So it's up to us locally to stop it. And it begins by having more Republicans, conservative Republicans, on the school board. It also begins by us all going and being active, going to those school board meetings, listening to what's going on and knowing what they're doing. And it also, if you have children in schools, that's another thing. You need to really listen to what they're coming home and telling you. Because even though we've got many people saying that CRT is not promoted in schools and they're not teaching it, you know, you've got some teachers that are teaching it. They are rogue teachers. They have decided that CRT is correct. So they are going around and teaching that, and unless a child comes home and tells a parent, there's no way to know it. So that's one of your assignments that I'm going to give you all. Make sure you know what's going on in the local schools, because that is one of the ways to keep it out as well. So as an educator, I can see on a daily basis what CRT can do to my classroom. If I bring my children in and I start labeling them by the color of their skin and putting one group here and another group over here, I am dividing my classroom. Not only am I going to be dividing my classroom, but I'm going to teach differently to them. Because I want one group to succeed, the other group, it's not a big deal. If they succeed, so be it, but I'm not going to do anything to make certain that they do. That's not the way I teach. That is not what a good teacher would do. And that's also, again, causing division within the classroom. And if you've got division in just one classroom, if you've got just one teacher doing this in a school, it's going to go from that classroom to the next classroom. It's going to go out into the school. From out into the school, it goes out into the community. Into the community, it goes into our state. So CRT can be damaging from the school all the way through the state and cause a lot of division that we don't need, and we certainly don't have, but we will if CRT is continuing to be promoted. I love my students, and I only want to see what's best for them, and CRT certainly is not. I believe that the public education system is where the American dream begins. As Democrats use CRT as a tool to spread divisive propaganda for political gain, Republicans are committed to instilling in our children that the United States is truly the land of opportunity. So I want you guys to remember that. And all elections are local. So we have to start now. We have to start here. And if you have not gotten involved in your precinct, please do so. Have you signed up to be a poll observer? How about a judge? We need you, the children need you, and your county needs you. Have you volunteered to help put signs out, or go help with a fundraiser, or hold a meet and greet to help either grow your precinct or to help a candidate, help our school board candidate? Anything like that that you can do will truly help defeat CRT. So I'm asking you tonight to make a pledge to go out, become active, listen to what's going on in the schools, go to the school board meetings, speak up at the school board meetings. Listen to what's going on at the schools. Again, if you have children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, volunteer at that school, because volunteering at least gets you in the door. If you can get in the door, you can hear what's going on. And you'll start hearing things, and you'll soon find out if there's a teacher there that is promoting CRT. And they may not be calling it critical race theory. They may just be talking about equity. But you'll know what it is because you've been educated to know that. So in closing, I'd like to thank you all very much for allowing me to be here. And before I close, I would like to recognize we have a wonderful staff at NC GOP, and I would like to recognize Derek. He's here. So I thank you very much, and I'm willing to take any questions that you all may have. Yes, sir.
At the college level, you can audit courses and sit in on them basically for free. Is there any way for K-1 through 12 that parents or whoever can literally sit in the classrooms?
You know, I'm kind of laughing. So the question was, you can audit classes in college, but is there any way that a parent could in K through 12? And the reason I'm kind of snickering is, you know what, if you're virtual, you can. Yeah, I can tell you right now. If the kids were virtual, because like the last 18 months, you know, a parent could certainly do that. But I know at my school where I teach at, they welcome parents coming, and if there's an issue, the only thing they have to do is let the administration know they're coming beforehand. They can't just show up because they said that's not fair to the teacher. So they request that a parent, you know, lets the administration know that will let the teacher know that they're coming. So you can do it, but you have to go through the proper protocol. So that's why I say it may be easier to volunteer, because volunteering, they kind of look at you a little different than if you are the quote parent. Because if you're the parent, they're not going to say anything wrong because they know you're there. But as a volunteer, that's when you're more likely, I think, to find out stuff going on. So I hope that answered it. Yes, ma'am.
So I echo what you said about going to school board meetings, because nobody goes to school board meetings except when there's a big issue going on.
Right.
But how can we on a local level have an impact? Because in my experience, by the time something's on the agenda at the school board meeting, it's a done deal. So, because basically the school board rubber stamps what the superintendent says. So how can we influence before it gets to that point?
Okay, so one of the ways that you can do that is, I know that the school, the county that I teach in and other districts, they have on their website when the school board meetings are. So you can check there, and hopefully you'll be able to know in advance what's going on, what they're going to discuss if you check that website, because they'll list the agenda. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to find out everything, but I think it's very important not to be discouraged because you feel like you don't know what they're doing until the last minute, because again, you can go and speak, and I would assume, like all the others, that they have that open forum, and if you looked at the agenda, hopefully that will give you the information that you're looking for if there's a hot topic coming up. And I'll use this as an example too. It may be, let's say there's a school board meeting tonight and they didn't list it on the agenda. You go, you hear this hot topic. Well, when you go the next time, you can certainly use your time to talk about it and bring that back up and make certain that people know what's going on and that they're educated. And, you know, call your friends and because there's power in numbers.
I will say, in my experience, the school board behaves differently when there's people in the audience they don't recognize. I had a retired friend show up with a bow tie and a clipboard. And it was a great meeting because they had no idea who he was.
Exactly. I mean,
so just going to a meeting can have an impact.
Going to a meeting can have an impact. They need to know that citizens are concerned, citizens are worried about what's happening to our future generation. I mean, because just think about it. The children that I'm teaching now are going to be our doctors, our lawyers, our elected officials. And if they are brought up and taught history that is not correct, what's going to happen then? Yes, sir.
So you segued perfectly into a question I had. Can you provide an example of a CRT lesson counter to a current lesson that's going on right now?
Okay, so the question was, can I provide a CRT lesson to counter?
So something's being taught right now, currently, right? So what in the CRT would be taught that's so counter to American history?
Some of the things that they want to teach are actually is Marxism, and it's not our American history, our American way. It's not the truth of our history. And I think that and I don't teach history, and I'll tell y'all what I teach in a minute. And I do see it coming into mine as well, but I even have this compared to math. How when you do fractions and all, you know, you've got you're doing problems and it divides it up into fractions, and that's what CRT is doing, is dividing our students into different segments and grouping them that way, and that makes the children very uncomfortable. But as far as going in, what they're actually doing in a classroom, I know that I've heard some of my teachers that do teach civics, some of their topics have been, again, taking out the fact what the Civil War was about, taking those things out. And instead of teaching history so that we can learn from it, they want to take it away from us.
Okay.
And not use that.
So you said taking out the Civil War, that the states' rights, or it was about slavery, correct? Is that what you're referring?
Yes.
So what's wrong with it being taught both perspectives? What's wrong with a class? Because school is brought up to have ideas of different sides, and I think that it'd be great for kids to hear, okay, there's a states' right argument, and there's a slavery argument. These are the points on both sides. I don't see what's so terrible about that coming up in the classroom, and a teacher that's certified navigating that conversation.